Hey everyone, before we get started with this next episode, I want to give a quick shout out to the Archives of Falconry. Located in Boise, Idaho, the Archives of Falconry is the leading steward of global falconry heritage. The Archives collects and preserves falconry heritage and the legacy of individual falconers, including their correspondence, memorabilia, art, literature, crafts, and life stories. The Archives also interprets falconry history and celebrates the role of falconers in the birth of raptor conservation. If you're not a member, visit falconry.org and become one today. Now, on to this next episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast.
So I got this rabbit coming down the ditch towards me, Mach 9. The monster is right on its butt. Goshawk comes in, head-on shot, hits it so hard head-on. She full somersaults herself, and the rabbit is a full head over heels down the ditch, and then she pops back up, comes down the ditch, and grabs it before it recovers.
Hey everyone, welcome back for another episode of the Falconry Chronicles podcast, and this episode is actually going to be the last episode that I bring you for a while, featuring falconers from Canada. And this episode was recorded at this last year's NAFA meet. I had a chance to sit down with Nathan Hyland after kind of coordinating a way to connect with him while we were both there, and it was good to finally get a chance to nail his episode down as well. And at least for now, it'll be a good fitting ending for this particular series. Hopefully I'll be able to bring you some more episodes from Canada in the future, preferably that will be recorded in person, but we'll see what happens. But anyway, in the meantime, I hope you enjoy this last episode from this series featuring falconers from Canada, and I hope you've enjoyed it. And I'm going to go ahead and just turn things over to this conversation I had at this past NAFA meet with Nathan Hyland. Here we go. So yeah, man, no, nice to meet you, and thanks for taking a bit of time here and, you know, swinging over to the La Quinta over here and sneaking this quick session in. And it's nice to officially meet you, and I guess you should feel just maybe a little bit privileged, because I think this is going to probably end up being the first like in-person recording that I've actually gotten a chance to do for this whole Canada series.
Oh, so, sweet.
Yeah,
here we go.
Yeah. So, you know, as you know, I'm always prefer that over, you know, the remote stuff. I just, you know, the vibe and actually being able to be in the same room with somebody and look across the table and actually just be right there when this is going on. You just can't replace that.
Yeah, I mean, so much stuff has moved online now, and, you know, we're having our hawking club, like the field meet committee meetings are all on Zoom now. And like, I get it. I don't mind not having to drive, 2.5 hours to go down and meet for the meeting and then drive home. But like, yeah, it's not the same as being like sit at a table, bounce ideas around. Like it works. It's not the same though.
Yeah, I mean, there's certain applications that I think that you just can't really replace the in-person vibe. And, I mean, like I've gotten into discussions like this with other, even like musician friends of mine and stuff that like, most musicians even now prefer to write remotely, and just bounce files back and forth online. And, especially like there's so many bands now that I don't even know if people even realize, but lots of huge prominent bands, it seems like the more prominent they get, the more dispersal they have of their band members.
Yeah.
And so they don't ever actually get into the same room a lot of times and start rehearsing together until it's either about time to start recording or touring. But in the interim, they're all living like all the way across, sometimes even the world. And, I mean, that's all well and good, but that's not a real time kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like for something like this, that's obviously real time, man, it's like I said, can't beat sitting across the table from someone and like I said, kind of taking in the vibe of the kind of the social atmosphere of what's kind of going on. And of course, for those listening, we're at the NAFA meet right now, and just got to Kearney a little bit ago, and just hanging out. So
yeah, it's my first NAFA meet. It's the first time I've been hawking in the States, come to think of it.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I've obviously been to the States before, but never hawked here before. So,
Huh. Okay.
So-
Yeah. No, I mean, it's and from what you've seen so far, I mean, did you actually get a chance to go out today, or did you?
Yeah, so we rolled in, got in about 1:00 yesterday, and then got out with Martin Galentz for a flight on chickens last night, and did not go as scripted.
Shocker.
We had birds put in, and then he went up the ridge and went to put his bird up, and then different chickens got up, and it all degraded in a. He got a really nice flight, but it was on the other side of the hill, and we didn't see any of it. But that was a fun start. And then I went out this morning with Jenny, and put up a couple of rabbits, got very wet very fast, and then came back and thawed out.
Yeah, it's like I said, I don't know if you've gotten a chance. So pretty much like aside from getting a chance to come over and see hawking have you gotten a chance to see hawking in any other countries aside from, Canada and here then, or?
I went to the meet in the Emirates back in 2017. They had that big international festival.
Sure.
And they had that the youth sponsorship where they sponsored youth to come over from different countries.
Yeah.
I got to go over for that meet back in 2017. There wasn't actually they don't actually hawk in the Emirates. There's no game left. They had some demos. They had some bag stuff, bag to bar. They, did some, demo flights on. But no, I've never seen actual falconry outside of Canada.
Yeah, Canada's kind of big, and so is the U.S. So yeah.
You have a bit better density though. Like the number of falconers at this meet is probably equivalent to the number of falconers in Canada.
Sure.
So there's groupings. if you go to Saskatoon, you got at least 4 in Saskatoon. But then there's 12 in the province. So Ontario is definitely your highest density. The Ontario Hawking Club is actually one of the bigger clubs in North America. Because Ontario has a fairly high population density. From Canada standards, it's pretty average in a U.S. setting. From where I live, there's 20 plus falconers within a couple hours. The Ontario Hawking Club meets usually 80-90 people for banquet. So it's a pretty and pretty much all of them are all the Southern Ontario tips. They're all within 4 or 5 hours of each other. But outside of that, we're pretty spread out.
Yeah, it's definitely sparse from what I've heard, and and hence why it makes it even more challenging to try and organize something where you try and get a lot of people in one place at one time. And unfortunately, as we were kind of talking, as we were coming up on the elevator, walking to my room here and stuff earlier, it's like you have to start prioritizing what you can do and what you can't, and what justifies the expense and what kind of doesn't right now, and kind of getting the most bang for the buck, and the juice for the squeeze, so to speak. But I hope that a trip like this for you is at least worth the expense, because it is cool. Not that hawking here in the States will be probably that much completely different than in Canada, but at least you get to kind of see probably some subtle differences, I would assume.
From what I've seen so far, it hasn't been a great example today. The weather was pretty miserable.
Yeah,
but the landscape's similar to a Eastern Saskatchewan, Manitoba vibe. This part of Saskatchewan I was in last year, I was kind of northeastern. It's a bit farther north, a bit closer to the boreal forest. It's a bit more treed. A bit more treed relatively. It's still Saskatchewan. It's similar kind of vibe and landscape to what you got here. But then, you get down in, southern Saskatchewan, like Ceylon, Weyburn area, and it's all wide open. It's just, all open prairies. Otherwise, back where I am in Ontario, it's Ontario is funny because it's cut out of the boreal forest. So it is either forest or farmland or developed. There's no, there is, you get fallow pasture field, but if it's not cleared by humans, it's not cleared. It's boreal forest.
Yeah.
And so, it's great for, squirrel hawking and dirt hawking. I got good duck numbers in my area, but yeah, like partridge and grouse. We've got rough grouse. So we have forest grouse, but yeah, if it's not native to forest habitat, it's not native to Ontario. So that's why we go to the prairies, and yeah, they got the partridge and grouse, and it's Mecca.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing too, is like, a lot of people, like when they're referring to falconry in the US about what takes place where, I should say, it's like generally like east of the Mississippi, you're just primarily going to be dirt hawking.
Yeah.
Very much, very little as far as like, the long wing and like even like jackrabbits and stuff. But then like you start going more west of the Mississippi, and then your options start opening up a little bit more. But you start having less of like, at least in some areas, less of the squirrel type stuff and whatever. And that's, mostly out west is more of your long wing and so on and so forth. But see, I wouldn't even know, like even after talking to, some of the different falconers in Canada and stuff, it's like, I still don't know really in my mind how to kind of geographically, because as I mentioned many times before, I suck at geography anyway. So like, it's hard for me to really imagine where certain stuff is more prevalent than others as far as types of hawking.
Yeah. And so Canada's, obviously similar in the northeast separation. It's still the same landmass, but yeah, basically, so Ontario, like when I say Ontario, you got like Ontario shares a latitude with both Alaska and California. So like Northern California is Arctic, and Southern California, tip of Niagara, is like it's wine country. So it covers a lot of ground. 95% of the population is all in the southern tip, like along the lake near the border. But yeah, so Ontario is pretty much all boreal forest in the north section. The south is quite developed. So you get a lot more open agriculture areas. You get kind of your more typical kind of urban hawking, a lot of dirt hawking, a lot of rabbits, a lot of squirrels. And then, yeah, if you move east to Quebec, it's quite similar. Falconry in the Maritimes is kind of spotty. I know there's a few people out there doing it. I believe Nova Scotia has pheasants. They got like ptarmigan and stuff up in Newfoundland, but there's not really anybody up there actively hawking it. So yeah, decent number in Quebec, flying, rabbits, and they don't have a squirrel season, which is, long story, but, they come into Ontario and kill our squirrels and then go back. So, but then, when you head west, you head through Northern Ontario, it's all like Northern boreal forest. You got grouse and snowshoe, couple falconers up there flying red tails, taking a snowshoe. And then, you hit Manitoba, and it's still boreal. Manitoba's basically the transition. Like when you go through Manitoba, you transition from forested trees as far as you're going to go. And it starts to peter out, and you get into more kind of mixed prairies. And then, by the time you hit Saskatchewan, it's open prairie. It's, basically, when I first hit, like when you first hit the Nebraska coming west, like the eastern Nebraska looked a lot like Saskatchewan, like that kind of open rolling hills. It looks a lot like the area I hawk up by St. Law. And then Manitoba's similar, or sorry, Manitoba, Alberta's similar, and you get up into the Rockies on the west edge of the province, and then you could cross the Rockies, and you're into again more boreal forest through BC. And I know a few falconers in BC. I think they're mostly flying ducks and rabbits. They don't really have much upland there. Again, it's forest, it's not prairies, it's not where they live. So
yeah, sounds like there's a kind of like that. It's sort of the same kind of divisiveness in some ways as far as what you can do and what you can't. It's just kind of dispersed a little differently, through there from what it sounds like. Yeah,
basically same division, just fewer people.
Yeah. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I hopefully I'll get a chance to make it up there at some point. We need to keep talking about that. But as far as everything else, I know how I found out about you was through some other mutual friends that also kind of watch your videos and stuff, whatever. We were just talking about that some too. But remind me again, how long have you been making like your videos and stuff?
So the videos I started doing, what bird was I flying? That was the gosh. Yeah, I think I started filming 6 or 7 years ago. And it's just kind of one of those, I had an iPhone, I had a decent camera. I'd hear my dog barking, I'd pull my phone out and shoot the video of the rabbit popping out, and did that for a season or two. And I like having something that it's fun at the end of a hunt to be able go back and watch the flights and be able to save them. I started to find the cell phone worked but wasn't great, and so I wanted a better camera, and so I started looking around, and I read a bunch of. I initially didn't want a GoPro because like all the GoPro videos I'd seen all sucked. Like they were they're shaky and bouncy and you can't see what's happening. But literally every review I read on the best quality action cam all said get the Hero 7, because I don't know if you will, so I get lost in the weeds of GoPro stabilization. But yeah, the GoPro automated, like the stabilization software in them is insane.
Yeah, the digital stabilization.
Oh, it is out of this world. And so, and the Hero 7 was the one where they first rolled out their the new Hyper Smooth.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I bought a Hero 7 and I started filming with that, and then I've got a Hero 9 now and a GoPro Max, and I bought a camcorder last season. So whatever I do, I tend to start things, and then if I'm going to do it, I might as well do it well, and then you kind of end up down the rabbit hole, and then
literally and metaphorically.
Yeah. And so it started, I should shoot some goshawk video, and now I've got $4,000 in camera gear, and I'm buying software, and it's it's definitely a rabbit hole, like you just said. I mean, obviously you see my setup here, and this is just my bare bones mobile type setup. I mean, if you ever get a chance to come through Indiana sometime, I'll show you my studio and come down for the squirrel meet.
Yeah. Just basically just it's once you see the studio and all the different stuff I've invested in over the years, including my music equipment and a couple of my basses and stuff. And yeah, I mean, I completely relate is what I'm trying to say. And yeah, once you start kind of making that plunge into certain things and you're serious about it and you really like doing it, then the next thing is like, okay, how can I upgrade? How can I improve the quality? And yeah, I mean, you're talking about, the GoPros are up to what, like the 12 now or something? The
12's a new one. And I looked into it. Usually I upgrade like every new generation, they improve it a little bit. And so I tend to upgrade whenever there's like something significant. Mm-hmm. So I started with the 7, because it was the first one with the Hyper Smooth. And it worked well. And then the 8 came out and it was a bit better. And then when the 9 came out, it had a new feature, which I absolutely love. It has hindsight. So you can set it to a 30-second hindsight. And so when you turn the camera on, it records and then keeps a 30-second loop. So when you hit play, it starts recording from 30 seconds ago. So you can go out flying a goshawk and turn your camera on and you don't record. When the rabbit flushes, you get the flight and then you press record and it jumps back to 30 seconds before the rabbit flushed. So you can go so before, I go hawking for 2 hours. I typically just kind of film the whole thing, and then you got to skim through 2 hours of video and delete all the it's so after every hunt you're spending 20 minutes. Whereas now you go hunting and then you just capture what you want to capture, and then the hindsight is such a great feature, and it's the thing I love with the GoPro too is it doesn't take you out of the hunt. I film with a camcorder a bit, and it's fun. You can get some really nice video. But you're watching the hunt through the camcorder screen. Yeah. Whereas the GoPro, you
just wear it on your head or whatever.
You just go hawking, and if you see the flight, the GoPro sees the flight. Mm-hmm. And so, you just go hawking, and then at the end of the day, you got, a digital copy of it you can watch, for years to come.
Yeah, the off the fist stuff, and then even squirrel hawking, it's really useful. The long wing stuff, not always so much.
Long wing falconry is hard to film.
Yeah, because then you're like, oh, there's the dot, and it hits the other dot, and that's cool or whatever. But yeah, so what I ended up having to start doing was basically I had to tell myself that I can't upgrade electronics every year anymore. I told myself 3 years. Every 3 years, you're allowed to upgrade. And by then, there's usually enough significant stuff. By that time, it's worth it. Yeah. And so it doesn't matter if it's cell phone, computer, GoPro, or any kind of electronic device, I force myself to wait at least 3 years or 3 generations before I upgrade.
Well, I usually like to wait and buy used. Like the camcorder I've got, I bought used off of Connor down in
California.
California. You needed money for house repairs and couldn't justify having that much money to get a camera. And especially when it was his spare. So I bought that off him. But no, I mean the GoPros, like, they aren't expensive. Like they're a few $100.
A few $100, yeah.
Yeah,
and they usually run sales on them and stuff. And,
yeah, like when you actually look at what it is, it's a very affordable camera compared to what else is on the market. But no, I'm thinking about the 12. I'll have to see. There's no major new features. They revamped the battery saving software on it. So apparently the battery life on it's way better, which is nice, especially in the cold. You're not swapping batteries every half hour. But
yeah, that's something I've noticed with like the 10 that I have is the battery life still kind of sucks. But I'm also recording in like 5.2K or some crap or whatever too.
Yeah,
which,
I usually shoot 2.7K and then 60 frames, so you can slow it down. Because I mean, like, the advantage of shooting the higher frame, you can crop it. So what's nice, so the long video I have shot, I'll shoot like 4 or 5K, and then you can crop it by half, and it's still 2.7K Ultra HD. But yeah, it uses up more file space, and it's just harder to deal with.
Yeah, well, it's like, or you can do the 1080p at like 200 or 400 and whatever frames per second.
Well,
shoot the ultra slow mo and
so
stuff.
The new one, you can shoot ultra slow mo in 2.7K, which is and it's still stabilized. So I don't know. Let's not geek out too hard. But yeah,
I was getting ready to say I'm just going to apologize to all the non-nerds that are listening right now that if this might be painful.
This is a Falconry podcast. We swear it's not a GoPro. Yeah.
Well, I mean, this does apply. Yeah, we're trying to integrate this a little bit for anybody that's listening that might be in the market and want to start doing this kind of stuff on their own. This might actually be some helpful information for you.
It's one of my pet peeves when I watch, I see falconers posting on Facebook, and I see some guys doing some incredible falconry with some terrible cameras, and I'm just like, come on.
Yeah, it's tough sometimes, but it's whatever. Like I said, either do it or don't. Get into it or don't. It's your choice, But yeah, man, no, it's funny stuff though. But yeah, I mean, I will say though that, we were also kind of having the casual conversation before we started recording too about, the production side of it and, how much work goes into, editing that stuff and, even stuff like this podcast and, people don't, I think a lot of people don't realize, just how much, especially when videos incorporated into things, how long it can take to piece together and really edit and make a good, reel or, YouTube video or whatever. I mean, it really is a lot of work. Yeah.
Yeah. So I usually put together at the end of a season, I'll kind of, all of my
montage.
Yeah. Basically all my best video from the season, I'll kind of piece it all together in a one big long video. And I try and keep them reasonably length because who's going to sit down for 40 minutes and watch a Falconry video other than me? But yeah, usually, they run, 20, 30, 40 minutes. And that'll take me, like, so what you don't realize, that's 40 minutes. That's 7 months of hawking 5 to 6 days a week, 2 to 3 hours a day. Condensed that this is like the 40 best minutes out of that last 7 months. And then you spend, 8 hours cutting it all together to get this little video at the end.
Well, and that's also after you spent untold amounts of hours going back through the video footage too and figuring out which parts to parse together to even get to the part where you're spending the 8 hours to parse it all together.
Yeah. I've got, like, when I first started filming, like, I wanted to save I wanted to just save every flight. And it's like, if the bird left the fist, I hit play. And when you fill up half a hard drive full of hawking video, you start to realize, I don't need another video of my bird flying after a rabbit. So, I've gotten better now. Like, if it's a mundane flight, I often just won't bother even recording it. Like, I just won't hit play on the GoPro because, she flew and hit a rabbit. Yeah, yay. But, if something kind of cool happens or it's, a really nice flight or if it's worth saving, then I'll hit play. So I've tried to start to parse that down. Go more for more quality, less quantity, but it gets away from you.
Yeah, for sure. So for anyone listening that wants to start kind of delving into the production side of things, whether it's just straight audio, video,
give me a shout. Happy to help. So it's so much fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I really suggest that you don't do it.
I mean, that's definitely the better option. But if you're not that smart, then hey,
yeah. So
give me a shout. I'm happy to help. So
yeah, but I mean, it's definitely a lot of work for very little return for anybody that's thinking about getting into it. But that's neither here nor there. We can go ahead and stop torturing people now, I guess. And but I mean, so out of curiosity, I mean, we should probably just go ahead and launch into the part then and just find out, how you got into all this and how long you've been doing it now.
This is my 11th season, I believe. I got into it, I think, similar to a lot of folks. I read the My Side of the Mountain, Frightful's Mountain books back when I was like 8 years old. And that's my first introduction to the concept of falconry. I didn't realize it was actually a real thing that people did, let alone did in Ontario. And then, I saw a guy, Matt Lieberneck, doing a bird of prey demo. And it was like my light bulb. Oh my God, it's a real person doing this. This exists. I have to do this. And I think I was 10 years old at the time. And, I go up to him afterwards, he's putting his birds away. And I'm going like, this is so cool. How do I get into this? And, I'm sure he looked at me and went like, yeah, here's this 10-year-old, like, he's not gonna like, we've all been, asked that, how many times, so-and-so you're running around the street and, oh, this is so cool. How do I get in? Like they never do. Right. And, but yeah, he told me, well, you need a small game license, then you contact the ministry, they put you in touch with a local falconer. It's a 2-year sponsorship, et cetera, et cetera. And, so yeah, I did it. I went back and, got my small game license at 12 years old. And then, contacted the ministry and, they put me in touch with a local falconer. I'm a bit farther north. There aren't a lot of falconers in my area, even fewer back then. So he was the closest guy. He was about an hour away and not a particularly active falconer. But yeah, he agreed to sponsor me and sold me my first Harris Hawk. This is back. So I got into it. This was January 2012. I got my first Harris Hawk. She was a late pulled bird, which probably saved me because I made a lot of mistakes with her. But being a late pulled bird, she never turned into a screaming nightmare. But yeah, we didn't get wild take in Ontario until 2012. So back pre-wild take, basically everybody flew, well, either Harris Hawks or goshawks. And most of the club all flew Harris Hawks. That's what everybody started with. And so I got a female Harris Hawk, flew her for a few seasons. And then I added a dog in and she hated dogs. I spent 1.5 seasons trying to sort it out. And then finally just, this is just not worth it. And we had wild take at that point. And so I trapped a passage red tail and I sold the Harris Hawk. And that first passage red tail was fantastic. She's one of those birds who basically came off the trap, took her to the field and she started killing squirrels. Like I'd never squirrel hawked. I'd never really seen squirrel. I didn't know what I was doing, but she did. And she basically taught me how to squirrel hawk. And had a great time flying her. And flew her for 1.5 seasons. And then she got electrocuted. And flew a couple other Harris Hawks. And then currently flying old goshawk and GXP peregrine male.
Cool. Yeah, it seems like you've gotten decent amount of different types of exposure for the amount of time that you've been in. You probably you've been in a few years longer than I have at this point, and like I said, it sounds like you've had some pretty good overall just experiences, especially the like with the Harris Hawks and stuff. It's
I love Harris Hawks. I've flown a few. So my first one was all things considered a pretty decent bird. I'm glad that we caught a couple dozen rabbits in the 2 or 3 years I flew her, which considering how little I knew, isn't bad. She was a good game hawk. She was quiet. She was well mannered. She hated my gut. Like, she literally would not ride the fist. Like I would pick her up off the perch and she would hang upside down to the scale, hop on the scale, and then hang upside down to the truck, hop in the hawk box. I get to the field, give her the T-perch. She'd hop on, she'd ride the T-perch to hell and back. Like she literally wouldn't ride the fist. Just full stop, wouldn't do it. But no, for a first bird, she was good. She was fun. But I got a little Jack Russell in my second or third season and changed my falconry. Absolute game changer. But the Harris Hawk would not have it, kept trying to kill her. And they would kind of get over it. And then she'd be fine for a few weeks. And then she'd come out of a tree and bind to her. And just, at some point, I like my dog more than I like my hawk. One of them's got to go. The dog's staying.
Yeah, no, I have a very love-hate relationship anymore with Harris Hawks. Like overall, I really like them still. But
they're fun. But I flew. So my second Harris Hawk experience after my red tail died, I got a female Harris Hawk, late clutch, late bird, and my red tail got electrocuted in November, so I had nothing to fly, and a guy I knew still had Harris Hawks available, so thought better than, sitting out the season. And trying to enter a young Harris Hawk in January when it's well below freezing, it's not a good idea, not a good time. And she similarly turned mean and then started hitting my dog. And she was just a mean bird. And I think, just because between the weight cut and the cold, and then game that time of year is hard because all the easy stuff's gone, and it degraded fast. And so I had to move her along as well. And then the following season, my buddy Matt was setting up his breeding project, and so we brought in, there's a guy out west who was shutting down his abatement company and selling a bunch of Harris Hawks. And so Matt brought them in because they're all breeding age, and wanted to fly them for a season or two first and see which ones were worth breeding. And so he gave me two. He gave me a male and a female to fly to basically test out and see if they were worth putting in his project. And so I flew them for one season. And if I'm ever going to fly Harris Hawks again, I'll definitely fly a cast. It is like, Harris Hawks are made to fly in a cast. It's what they do. If you're not flying them in a cast, you're missing out on like so much potential. And I barely scratched the surface. I flew them for a few months, and flew squirrels, rabbits. They were a couple good birds, but they didn't work out. And give them back to him for breeding. And they didn't end up qualifying for breeding. So the female was a good bird, but she started plucking, and then started eating her toes. And at that point, she was getting all these welts that just fattened her up, and not a bird you want to put in a breeding project. So
and like I said, I've talked about it many a time with the whole dog thing and stuff, and it's always interesting hearing other people's experiences with that. And it seems like if a Harris doesn't see dogs from an early standpoint, like early and often, doesn't grow up around as many different breeds as possible, and then also doesn't see a breed or a particular dog work for them and get up game and like show them that they're a part of their family and team or whatever, then it seems like that risk is always there.
And when they hit them, it's the hit and bind, right? Like, my goshawk, if she's in a mood or she she'll chase the dog, she'll tap him on the butt, like she'll, give him some attitude, but like, she's not binding to their face and dragging, and I got my little Jack Russell's about 10 pounds, right? Like a female Harris Hawk, probably not gonna do any major damage, but like, a talon hits an eye, like, it's not something you want to have happening.
No.
And that second Harris Hawk I had, so she started hitting the dog, which basically kneecapped me because I'm trying to enter her, and she was smaller too, so I didn't really want to start her on squirrels. And you're not going to put up rabbits in January in Ontario without a good small dog. They're all in, like, the snow's down, they're all in brush piles. Like, you're not pushing them out without, a small dog to get in there and work them. And so I figured, okay, I need to show her rabbits. I can't run my dog. I'll go with my buddy Matt. He's running the small Munsterlander at that time, which, she's a good 35-pound big black dog. The only dog my Harris Hawk's ever seen is the small Jack Russell. And like, okay, she's going to be put off, but, he's flying a Harris Hawk. She'll hang back. She'll see rabbits moving. You know what? Like, we just need to get some rabbits moving in front of her. The big dog, it's going to scare her a bit, but like, she's probably not going to leave the field. She'll hang back. One might loop towards her. So put her up in the tree, puts his dog out. We got the two Harris Hawks up. Everything's fine. Push a few rabbits. His dog runs underneath her, comes into the tree, hits her in the face, drags her to the ground, splits the tongue, blood everywhere. Like, this is the first dog she's seen, and comes down and smashed it in the face. Like, just... she was just one of those birds.
Some just do not tolerate them, and there's nothing you can do about it.
And for me, dogs are 80% of my falconry. Like,
and once you start incorporating the dogs in, exactly like you said, you can't just say, I'm not going to do this anymore. Once you decide that you're going to use dogs in your falconry, and they become, like you said, they're going to inevitably, unless something just really terrible happens, be almost a longer commitment and a longer incorporation into your hunting party than the bird is.
When I have to go out and, I hunt pretty hard, and, in the seasons dogs get dinged up. So, I run too. So, you've always got at least one in theory. But like, when I have to run without one of them, like, you feel handicapped. Like, it's like, I can't, I choose my falconry based on, like, the falconry I enjoy is a falconry that involves dogs. Like, it's, I love duck hawking. They're a very fun quarry. Really, my biggest complaint is the lack of dog work. Like, the dogs help flush and they retrieve, but like, there's not any real good dog work in it, which to me is the most like that. That's, you know, like I love rabbit hawking, like being out in a field, watching a dog dissect a patch of cover, like that's the meat of it. Because you know what, like as much as we all enjoy the flight, you know, you can go hawking for 2 hours and get 20 flights, and you know those 20 flights add up to like 5 minutes. Like
Sure.
the flights are pretty short, right? Whereas you're going to spend that entire time watching the dog work. And it's like good dog work is just, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, like you said, it adds a whole other element of fun to it, and well, honestly, a challenge too, because you know, getting everybody to work together is a whole other dimension that you have to coordinate and work out. And if for a lot of people that it's not their thing, you know, I mean, you don't really know what you're missing out on until you start trying to incorporate that into your falconry, I think. But
it is hard. I also feel like a lot of people, like I think a lot of the people I see who have a hard time incorporating the dog, like I always like, you know, I know some people who, you know, oh yeah, I won't run my dog in this field because it's too close to the road. If the field's too close to the road to run my dog, I don't hunt that field. Like I don't hunt without my dogs. I don't want to. It makes it so much better. But I feel like at some point you also got to let them do their thing and trust them. Like, you know, if I'm pushing a big field and there's high cover and there's a lot of rabbits, you know, it's not uncommon to have one dog going one way, the other dog's going the other way. Sometimes the birds and like things can, you know, you try and keep it together, but it doesn't always stay together. Like at some point, you know, I know my dogs, I trust my dogs. They're going to push that rabbit. They're going to come, like they're going to rejoin the hunt. Like they want to be with me. They want to be with the team working together too. And so like you kind of let them come together, and it's, yeah, I mean, I don't want my dog flushing rabbits in the far side of the field because that doesn't help anybody, but it's going to happen. And so, you know, I'm going to let her do it, and then she'll come back, and then we'll get the hunt back on pace. And like, I trust my dogs to know the hunt, and, you know, and I run them enough, and they're both made dogs at this point. They know how the game works. Yeah. You kind of let them do their thing and find the rabbit, and I just follow along.
yeah, I mean, like I said, it's taken a lot of work, a lot of time, effort, and energy to get, like, you know, my dogs to understand what they're supposed to do and stuff too. But the fact of the matter is sometimes you just gotta, you know, give them that subtle reminder to come back, you know, because I mean, a dachshund or whatever that's kicking up rabbits 150 yards away from me is not really, you know, gonna do much for you.
Yeah.
You know, and also sometimes, you know, if the bird's just a little bit, you know, off or a little bit heavy or whatever, there's not that inclination to want to follow as well, and all that kind of crap too sometimes. And you know, so I mean, getting it all to come together and where everything is working perfectly in symmetry is the aspect that a lot of people that don't run dogs, I think, don't want to worry about. But it's also the part that they don't realize that they're missing out on. That's the extra dimension when it does goes well, you know.
Well, and part of what helps too, like the last 6 seasons, I've primarily flown a goshawk off the fist, which in some ways is a lot harder because, you know, our cover is pretty high, especially early season. And so, you know, a goshawk that's 6 feet off the ground has a much harder time seeing things than a red tail that's, you know, 30 feet. But in other ways, it's a lot easier because I can put her exactly where I want her. So, you know, so I'm running the Jack Russell and the Munster, and they're an ideal combo, especially for Ontario. Because my Jack is not, like, a lot of people listening to this probably know Jack Russells. She's not a typical Jack. She weighs about 10 pounds. She's tiny as Jacks go. Like, she's comparable build to a lot of the dachshunds here. I mean, she's a different build, but like size wise,
it is tiny.
She brush piles, storage bins, dumpsters. Like she goes in all of it. She's fantastic. And then the Munsters are great. She's great. She's about 32 pounds. Nice lean build. Covers a lot of ground. So typically she'll find the rabbit. She'll get the first flush if it's in the open. If the goshawk misses it, it's going to cover, and then Jack Russell pushes it out. So the Munster gets right 80% of the finds, and then the flushes go about 50-50. But so I find like the two of them, the tricky thing is usually keeping the pace together because the Munster works a lot faster. Just bigger, leggier, better nose. Like she'll hit a trail and go. And then, you get the goshawk and you're legging it, trying to catch up because the rabbit's coming out soon. And then, if they miss it, the Jack Russell will catch up. And I think what helps too, my Jack's 10 years old now. So, she knows the gig. Like, starting a new dog would be tricky because they don't know what's going on. They're going to go do their own thing. But at this point, they've both been doing it long enough. My Jack Russell knows the monster's going to put up rabbits and put them in a cover. So she's sticking with her and vice versa. And so, like they want to be together because they've learned they find more when they're doing things together. And so, like, they certainly, they have their days. I find, it's universal in falconry, I think, but the more you hunt, the easier it is. And, so when I can run them more or less daily, it eliminates a lot of that angst. Like, if I don't hunt 3 or 4 days in a row and then I hit the field, like, the first 10 minutes is just a gong show because, like, they're so pent up from not, like, they just hit the field and want to go and then they end up going every which way. But you got a good steady run going, they're not burned out, but, they're not, they don't have that angst they get when they're sitting around. I find, so when you hunt daily, it makes it pretty easy. They just get in a good flow.
Yeah, the focus is there more.
Like they know what they did yesterday. They know they're going to do it again today. It's just, you get to get that routine going. It makes life so much easier.
Sure, yeah, for them and the bird, for sure. Yeah, it's sometimes it's hard to avoid that too, but like I said, it sounds like for the things that you're allowed to do or that's practical to do, in your area, it sounds like you've got a pretty good, foundational amount of experience and stuff with some of these different species that are practical. I out of curiosity though, like, if you had to be restricted to just flying one particular species, what is still your favorite thing to do out of all the different types of falconry that's practical for you in your area?
It would be a goshawk, only because they're the most versatile option. It's funny, I listen to a lot of these podcasts, and most falconers, I feel like, end up streamlining. Part of it's just what's practical in your area, but like a lot of people have their niche that they like and that they enjoy and they kind of specialize. I don't know if I haven't found it yet, or like, I'm definitely a generalist. Like, it's what I love about Ontario. Like, a lot of guys, especially some of the old time guys, complain that, we don't have pheasants anymore. The rabbit numbers aren't what they used to, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of universal everywhere, right? It used to be better 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But what I love about Ontario, where I live, I can drive an hour and hunt snowshoe and rough grouse in deep forest, or cottontails and squirrels in industrial park scrub. I can fly ducks with a goshawk and a falcon. Like, the variety I have at my fingertips is pretty incredible. It's the same thing. Like, I go to Saskatchewan every fall, and it is long wing paradise. Or goshawk paradise too, if you're flying ducks. And if you want to fly feather, Saskatchewan is your mecca. Like, it's fantastic. But, after a month of that, I kind of want to come back and, hit a brush pile behind the Walmart and drop my dogs and do some rabbit hawking. Like, I love the variety.
Yeah.
It's what I love about, my current goshawk is, she flies rabbits, she flies ducks. I can take her to Saskatchewan. She caught a few partridge last season. Like, so I'd probably say goshawk just because they're a generalist. But there's really no niche I've really picked out yet. It's the same thing I love, and it's the reason I got the Munster, is the versatility. Like, I can run her in the scrub field in Ontario on rabbits. She is hilarious to run on squirrels. Oh my God. It took her about 2 seasons to figure them out. They're the only quarry that she actually catches with any regularity because she's a soft mouth. So rabbits, she won't chomp down. Like, when she catches anything, she will not clamp down. And so rabbits just squirt past her, whereas squirrels, she can kind of corner them. And then she'll try and soft mouth retrieve them until she gets bit. And she gets bit every time. And then she gets angry, and then she'll shake them and kill them. But like, she's a ton of fun on squirrels. And she's, with that leg and that build, like, she's really good at keeping them up because she's quick. She flushes ducks, retrieves ducks. She'll find, point, flush upland. Like, she's just a very well-rounded dog, which is great for where I'm at and what I want to do. Cause like, I've thought about getting, a setter or, a bigger bird dog to, do grouse and stuff, but like, I'm not going to commit to a dog I can only run on one quarry. Like, I need a dog that can kind of do the gambit because it's
I mean, especially for where it sounds like you live. I mean, to be honest, the more I listen to you talk about this, the more slightly jealous I'm getting, because like the fact of the matter is, you know, like where I live, you know, the part of the Midwest where I live, it's somewhat, you know, restrictive. I mean, we don't have a lot of options. It's rabbit, squirrel, and, you know, some ditch duck hawking and stuff like that. You know, you can do some different stuff. You're just gonna have to work a little bit harder probably and start to really figure out the extra logistics behind being able to do some of the other types of things, you know.
Yeah, and I feel like it's, you know, I don't want to make it sound too good. The thing I feel like in Ontario, we have a lot, but none of it's easy.
Yeah.
Like even coming down here and looking at some of the cover we're hawking rabbits in, and like, yeah, I'd kill for slips in this stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's like we've got a lot, but none of it. Well, the squirrel hawking we've got is pretty great and pretty accessible. But yeah, like you're not going to have a good season on rabbits without at least one good dog. You know, yeah, we have ducks, but yeah, it's a lot of ditch ducks or small ponds. They're pretty scattered. There's a lot of lakes and a lot of rivers. And so a lot of the ducks that come through aren't on hawkable spots. It's like it's doable. But, and even then, and you know, the ponds you got, they're all surrounded by cattails or, you know, fallow stuff. Like half the ducks I caught this year, my dog had to retrieve them because the falcon hit them and then they fell to the ground and just disappeared because the cover is so high. You know, it's not like, yeah, the prairies of the Midwest where you've got this little flooded patch in the middle of a stubble field where you can just kind of stroll up to it and the ducks fly off it and your bird whacks it. And like, it's, so we've got it, but it's definitely not ideal. It's
not perfect.
No.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, like even the ducks there without a dog, a lot of them, you know, because just the population's so high, if they're near any urban center, they get used to people. So like they're not flushing for you, especially with some birds in the air. Like I've had ducks in ponds the size of like that bed, like that queen bed, and 8 inches deep. And like I wouldn't come out, like literally just wouldn't come out. Like it's,
you have to grab it and toss it in the air.
Yeah, like just mallards, diving, and yeah, you're trying to reach in against, you know, the goshawk sitting, you know, 6 inches above it, you know, waiting to murder it the second it leaves the pond. And yeah, but I've dunked a few times. I've waited, you know, duck hawking's all fun and good until your goshawk catches the duck and lands in the creek when it's, you know, 5 below, and you got to wait in and pull her out. And
yeah,
it's, you know, it's ups and downs, but no, all in all, I love it. I've seen a fair bit of the continent, and I'm quite happy hawking where I'm hawking. It's a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, I mean, I don't really hear too many complaints from most of the falconers that I've talked to from Canada so far. I mean, most think they have it pretty well.
It's a pretty good spot, and I mean, it's something's always better somewhere. But yeah, we got it pretty good.
Well, yeah, the grass is always going to be greener.
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, I mean, it sounds cool, man. Like I said, I hope to check it out sometime. But I guess you know, now would be a good time to go ahead and just, like I said, get a couple of one or two of your more favorite, you know, recollections as far as stories. Whether it could be from any one of your birds, hunting experiences, whatever. And yeah, man. I mean, just go ahead and come close to wrapping up from there, I guess. So
yeah, I can think of a few. Well, to tie into what we first started talking about, I feel like I got to share this flight because it was a great flight and my GoPro glitched, so I didn't get it on video.
Of course.
Which I was so I can immortalize it now. I was talking along this old abandoned railway track. I think this was my second season with the goshawk, and you know, we put up a few, but I think we caught one earlier in the day. Had been trying for the double, hadn't got it. It was getting later in the day, and so the dogs are up and they're working the big ditch along the left side, and it runs up the hill and over the privacy fence, and I can see that the monster's getting keyed up, and she comes up on a flash point, and then brakes and just goes nose down and bolts, which she usually tells me there was a rabbit sitting and it bumped when it heard us coming. So she's just beelining down, and so I start hoofing it with the goshawk to try and catch up before that rabbit pops out. And then, I hear, the yape, 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 yape. So, the rabbit's out, damn. And, but the great thing with her, she's quick enough. Often if she pressures them hard, they'll stop up, let her run past, and then pop out and double back. So she passes this rabbit, realizes she missed it, comes back, reflushes it. So now puts it up, coming back at us. So I got this rabbit coming down the ditch towards me, Mach 9. The monster's right on its butt. Goshawk comes in, head-on shot, hits it so hard head on. She full somersaults herself, and the rabbit is a full head over heels down the ditch, and then she pops back up, comes down the ditch, and grabs it before it recovers. And then my GoPro glitched, and I missed the last 40 seconds, and it didn't get it. But no, yeah, I mean, rabbit hawking, when you throw the dogs in, it's the other one I should just throw in for comedic effect with the dog. I was hawking the one day, and similar setup. There's some really kind of dense, low scrub. They'd cut the area, 5 or 6 years ago. So you had all the young saplings all growing up all tight together. So they did that young sapling cover. And we just gotten a fresh dump of like a foot of powder. And I find rabbit hawking in those conditions is usually pretty brutal because they can't run. And so they'll just hold and cover. And for some reason, this one rabbit was out, and the monster flushes it. And so it starts, rowing through the snow. And they'll use this move. And the first few times I saw it, I couldn't figure what happened. But like they'll use the snow for cover. Right, so I got this rabbit that's like swimming through the snow. The dog's behind it. The goshawk's coming in. This rabbit is dead. Like it's got nowhere to go. It ducks under the snow.
Of course it does.
The goshawk misses it, so it pops back up and starts retracing its tracks. Where it's got the trail run. But of course, the dog's coming at it. So the dog comes to grab it. It goes under the snow again and goes under the dog. So it was between the dog's legs and then pops back up. And then the goshawk gets up to chase it. The dog sees the goshawk coming, so the dog turns to run from the goshawk. So I get the rabbit and the dog both running down the track while the goshawk's chasing them on foot. And then the rabbit went down a hole. And the visual of the goshawk chasing my rabbit and the dog who were both running from it down there it was a moment. But rabbit hawking's a ton of fun. I feel like two of the stories that stand out. I had a couple good flights last season with the goshawk on partridge. And she's a funny bird. So I got her secondhand 7 years ago. And she's going to her 19th season now. She's getting up there, but new bird. She's still learning new tricks. I took her out west last season and flew her on partridge. And she's caught a couple upland here and there, but she's a rabbit bird. That's what she does. And so, any flight that went more than 50 feet, she's not used to chasing things that can outfly her. So she would just give up. We got a couple lucky slips, and she caught a couple and started putting things together. And my last flight on the last day, the sun's setting, we chased some kind of scattered signals earlier in the day, didn't get any. And I'm losing light. I'm leaving first thing tomorrow morning and driving down the road towards my next spot. And I see a covey sitting down in the ditch just off the road, picking gravel. Perfect. Pull up, park. And it was great because it was an elevated road. So I could sneak down the other ditch, and came up over the road. And so the great thing about this flight was just the evolution. So, 3 weeks before, she wouldn't look at anything that didn't flush within 10 feet and wouldn't chase it for more than 100 feet before she would quit on it. And had a full covey rise from probably 60 feet out, like from where they were to where I was when they flushed. And she blew off the fist, chased them up over the ridge, cranking the whole way, dropped over the far ridge. I checked the GPS and see her go down and drop into the slough on the far end of the field. So, I hoofed it down and I got down there and she's sitting down in the middle of the ditch on the cattails. And so I called her up and I didn't want to walk in because I knew there's probably a pin single. I didn't want to bust out while she was down low. And I called her up, picked her up, let the dog go. Dog comes in, runs right up to my feet and just locks solid on point. As I take one step forward and this partridge pops out between my feet and she hits it before it goes 3 feet. And it was the calm, like it wasn't a spectacular flight and by most measures. Like I know there's a lot of guys doing a lot better, but just what was so cool about that was to see for this team, like for that dog and that bird, this isn't what they do most of the time. So to see them kind of come together like that, it was pretty great. But
and even even though it just went like 3 feet, just seeing it right in front of you, I'm sure it was pretty funny.
Which is how most of the flights went. She would either catch them as they put in a cover because they would flare to drop in, and she would just drive in behind them and smash them. She caught one or two on the initial rise, not many. Most of them she would single one out, put it in a cover, we'd catch up, get that reflush, and especially once they bury down into the thicker grass, it slows them down just that little bit on the rise. And so she would hit them as they got up out of the heavy stuff. So she'd usually hit them like as they were clearing cover on the reflush. But no, it was a lot of fun. It's a form of hawking I definitely want to do more of. The goshawk on Huns is a ton of fun. And then she pulled feathers on one sharp tail, which almost stopped my heart.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the upland stuff sounds really cool to me, but I mean, unfortunately, where I'm at, I got the same problem as any other time. I might as well be trying to, like I said, just do pretty much any other kind of weird foreign thing because I just don't have any of that stuff close to where I live. So, any type of upland stuff for me and any type of a lot of those other things, I'm going to have to go. Several hours, I mean, many hours. West.
Saskatchewan for me is about 32 hours, depending on which part of the province I'm going to. So it's a good haul, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's nice. My work starts to get more flexible in the fall, so I can usually kind of finagle and get a month off. And I go basically at like late September through October, and I'll go for about a month or so. And it's a good time. But yeah.
Hey, if your life allows you to do it, man, go forth and...
Yeah, hey, while you're young, so...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you don't have near as many obligations and if you've got the time and you got the money, go for it.
Well, that's the advantage, too, to starting falconry when I did. Like, I feel like if you're starting falconry, the best time to do it is when you're, like, 16, 17, like, start of life or end of life. Like, when you try and start it in the middle, once you got, the wife and the family and the kids and the established job, it's a pretty hard thing to add.
Yeah.
Whereas like, if you can start, like, I have built my life, or like I have been hawking 7 days a week, 7 months a year since I was 14 years old. So my life is built around it. So it's not like I don't have to go out of my way to accommodate it because that's just the life I've been able to build, which is, pretty.
Yeah, for sure. And if someone meets you, or someone like you or whatever, like that started off younger or whatever, like they already know they're going to marry into that or get into an established relationship like with that or whatever, or as opposed to like, a case like mine, for example, when I've already been married for like, 8 years and already have an established, more or less career and so on and so forth. And I just fall into it, stumble upon it, and then want to start it. And then, all of a sudden it's like, okay, and you got to start molding, vice versa, in other words.
Well, I started dating for the first time back in the spring, and she's literally the first girlfriend it's the first date I've ever been on. Like, I've had no social life for the last 10 years because I hawk every weekend and I hawk every day after work, and I've got people I know who are going out and doing stuff on the weekends, and I'm not going. I gotta wake up early to go hawk. I'm not staying up.
Yeah, well, I mean, you just chose to have a relationship with your birds, man.
Hey, it's birds and dogs. It's worked for me so far.
Yeah, well, it keeps you out of trouble, and I'm sure.
Oh, no, it keeps me in a lot of trouble, but the right kind. So.
I was getting ready to say define trouble, I guess, right? Yeah, no, that's funny, man. No, that's cool. I mean, like I said, it sounds like you've discovered something like this at well, at least for you anyway, I mean, the perfect time. And being able to mature and grow up with it in your life, I'm sure. I mean, it's funny that you were kind of talking about. I had this exact same conversation with another falconer just a matter of days ago. Same kind of deal, grew up whenever with it basically, and started at a really young age. And like I said, there's always a part of me that's always envious of guys like you that get to start it so young and grow up with it. But I wouldn't have. There's no way in hell it would have worked for me that young.
Yeah. I should say, like, I started when I was 14, and can definitely say, if you're starting, wait till you got a driver's license.
Yeah,
makes life a lot. Like my first 2 seasons, I got one of those like those tow behind kid carrier things. I could buy it at the garage sale or something. I ripped the seat out, and so I could stick the hawk box and my hawking vest in the back of that. And I had like 2 or 3 fields I could bike to. That was just my falconry for the first couple seasons. But definitely not ideal. It wasn't. It wasn't. My first couple seasons were pretty rough, and then hooked up with a couple of guys who kind of knew what they were doing and showed me the ropes. Got the dog. Got the red tail. Kind of things started coming together, and it's been pretty good since then. So.
Yeah, I mean, imagine riding a bike or Ubering to your favorite hawk spots probably is not the most convenient thing.
It's fine until then the bird goes AWOL and you got to chase it.
Yeah, it's just it kind of extra hammers home the whole weight discipline and everything else and the weight management aspect of things, I'm sure.
Yeah, which I never got wrong when I was starting, and she was always at the perfect weight. So.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm sure. I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, everybody's like that, right?
Yeah.
That's hilarious, man. Well, like I said, do you want to kind of count that as your partial piece of advice to end on, or do you have something else do you think that's really important that you'd like to pass on?
Well, yeah, I knew you were going to ask me that, and it's hard because I've been given so much good advice over the years. I feel like I could restate a lot of things I've been told that have been very helpful. I feel like the thing I have most recently adopted, I have found helpful, is managing weight and just general bird management based on performance, not result. Like, I've had a lot of days where I've flown my bird and caught 3 or 4 rabbits and she flew very badly. And I've had days where I flew and maybe caught 1 and she flew really, really well. And so trying to base my management decisions on performance more than result. So, how hard did she fly? When she put the rabbit in a cover, did she pitch up immediately, pitch straight up and mark it? Or did she cruise past? All those little behavioral traits give a much better sense of where they're at than what they put in the bag. I've flown and caught limits because 5 rabbits made bad decisions, not because my bird flew well.
Sure.
And so going, oh, she's at the perfect weight. Well, no, she's not. She didn't actually fly that well. She just got lucky 5 times.
Yeah.
So I'd say, trying to, manage birds based on performance more than result has made a huge difference in my success and quality over the last couple seasons.
Yeah, we kind of joke around with each other, sometimes when our birds aren't performing as well, but still catch, sometimes we'll call it the good old flop and drop, and it's just just literally falls out the tree basically right on top of the rabbit because it just decided to stop and lick its paws underneath the freaking branch that the bird's or whatever, stuff like that.
I had one outing, and actually I made video out of this, so anybody can go look it up if they want to. Back, what would have been? It was the start of COVID, so it was 2020? Yeah. I had put her up at the beginning of March because work was picking up and it was slammed, and then everything shut down, so work kind of paused, and I thought, well, she's not that fat. So I pulled her back out and started dropping her back down. But I went out, it was one day, end of March, warm day, she was still 30 grams overweight, but what the hell, wasn't doing anything else. And so I went out, and first rabbit got up, and she watched it run by. And then second rabbit got up, and it was running way too fast. She watched that one run by too. And then my Munster hit this patch of Phragmites, and the entire hunt, this bird is just sitting on my fist, plopped down, staring middle distance, no interest in doing anything. And then the one thing that turns her crank more than anything else is when the sight of the Munster, there's that pace they hit when they're on game, that game pace when something's gonna flush soon because she's on a hot scent. When she gets that pace to her step, the goshawk sees that and just winds right up, and then the sound of the dog going through Phragmites, that crackle, just winds her up more than anything else in the world. And so the Munster hits his trail, hits his patch of Phragmites, a few crackle, the goshawk perks up for the first time all afternoon, rabbit pops out, and she just smokes it. It's you could have done that on the last 4, but nope.
Yeah,
I wanted to kill that one.
Yeah, so, those other ones weren't opportunistic enough or whatever enough in her mind to decide it was worth her time.
Yeah, so you could take that day and we caught a rabbit. She's good. I can fly her at that weight. No, you can't.
Yeah. No, I think that's good advice because I think there's a lot of times also where. Especially early on where we decide to either fly too low or whatever, just because we're so afraid that, we don't have the experience to know that this bird's not going to fly off, but we're still worried about it. It's all an experience thing. And there is a lot to be said for a nice, strong flight. And, hey, if that rabbit decides to do a a triple Lindy over your bird on a strong flight and it gets away, well, it's earned its life for another day. But you got to see one hell of a flight. And yes, everybody wants to end the day with something in the bag, but at the same time, it's like, well,
if they caught every slip, it'd be boring.
Yeah,
for me, I want to reward my bird. So if my bird flies really, really well and we don't catch anything, I'm bummed. I'm pissed because she doesn't care about a nice flight. She wants to catch something. Mm-hmm. So she wants to feel her feet on a rabbit. She wants to feel that satisfaction. So, for me, every hunt, I expect to put game in the bag because that's what she deserves. The fact that I get to enjoy the aesthetic along the way is bonus. But, she doesn't care about the aesthetic. She doesn't care about the nice flight. She'd be quite happy if every flight was easy.
Sure.
But it's seeing all that come together. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I 100% agree with you. But so, out of curiosity, real quick, before we wrap this up, is there with these blocks that you made and brought here and stuff, is that like a side business of yours, or is that just something like that you're just...
Again, I start doing these things by accident, and then 10 years later, I find myself down the rabbit hole. I started making hoods 8 years ago. A friend of mine who actually he's a few years younger, got super keen on falconry. It's kind of a phase. Yeah, he met girls and moved out of it. But he had a phase where he was super into it. And so he tried making a few hoods. I brought one over the one day. And it never crossed my mind to make one. And so, I tried it out and it did not resemble it in any way, shape, or form. And it's fun. I like leather work. It's relaxing. And so I kept messing around with it. And got better at it. And, people started buying them. And so, it's just kind of a little side hustle I do in the winter. And then, the block purchase, I started turning. I got a lathe, 2 or 3 years ago and started mucking around on it. And, a block's a pretty easy thing to turn on a lathe. So, great way to learn how to turn. And, started making a few. And then, guys wanted to buy them. And so, I needed bases. And, learned to weld. And I can't weld well, but, I can stick my, I can MIG weld. And, just kind of, there was demand, and so started sticking them together. And it's primarily a side hustle. My full-time job, I'm an arborist. So, we go hard during the summer. Like this last summer, I took the business over from my dad, and, I was putting in, 14, 15-hour days all summer. Into the fall, which is my season this year, has been a bit, it's part of why I don't have a bird here. It's part of why I was actually able to come. Normally I'd be full swing hawking right now, but I've mucked around with the falcons so far this season, but I haven't had time to really get going. So I'll start the goshawk when I get home. But no, it's great. Yeah, things slow down. We just kind of drop back part-time in the winter. Working in December in Ontario is not bad if you can pick and choose. 5 below is nice to work in. You can bundle up and stay warm. You're moving. But when it gets real nasty, it's not fun. So I usually have downtime in the winter, so I muck around. I turn blocks. So it's a bit of a side hustle, kind of. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, so not like an established thing, but if anybody wants to hit you up for a block or a hood or something, they can do so.
Yeah, look me up on Facebook or Nathan Hyland. Just shoot me a message, and I can probably hook you up.
Sweet, awesome, man. Well, is there anything else that you want to add before we call this good and get back over and see what kind of interesting crap we can get into this evening since it's opening night or whatever?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. So cool. Yeah. Hope people enjoy listening.
Yeah. No, thanks for agreeing to do this, and I'm glad we could go ahead and squeeze this in whenever we did. And one less thing got to worry about this week, right?
Yeah. One can interview done. It's just knocking them off.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks again so much, and let's go find something to drink.
Sounds good.
Awesome, man. Thanks.